وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, السلام alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If anybody wants to write a question on a piece of paper or pad out of shyness or decision or any other reason, feel free to do so. If you want to ask by just raising your hand, of course your right hand, that will be your left hand, then feel free to do so. Wala haraj, inshallah ta'ala. And how much time we got, Zach? Was it 30 minutes or an hour? Bismillah. All right, inshallah ta'ala. All right, so, tafadal.
All right, I wanted to ask, I have a policy generally
You have a policy.
whenever I seek employment, I try to avoid anything having to do with the military.
Okay.
And the military is a very large complex and a lot of people and associates through their industries work with the military, whether through aerospace,
Correct.
whether through financial services, whether through serving in a branch of the military. And in light of everything that's happened, in light of the American military's history, especially the lands, I wanted to get your take on how permissible it is.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I've been asked this question many times before. My answer then, inshallah, is my answer now. And that is, there is no doubt it's best for a Muslim to avoid any direct or indirect involvement with the military and the armed forces, Navy, Air Force, Marines, etc. It's absolutely best. Now you may say, why don't you say it's haram? Absolutely. I believe that some levels or some type of involvement with the armed forces are haram, for sure. All levels, all involvement is something I don't have enough nerve to say. And there are reasons why I refrain from saying that. Very important for us to understand is that it's the military. It's not just the military, nor is it just the United States Armed Forces. Rather, the whole idea of the policy in the Middle East, the lands of the Muslims, is something which is very deeply rooted in many companies. So if I said that it's haram, absolutely, you can't do a reserve, you can't do training, you can't get any education, it's haram, period. If you have anything to do with the military, no problem. Because they kill and slaughter Muslims, because, no problem. But who feeds the military? Who clothes the military? Who designs things for the military? Who transports things for the military? Who does the laundry for the military? So all of those services mentioned are sourced out. So that would mean you can't do this, you can't involve this, etc., etc., etc. And a big part of the military, as Napoleon Bonaparte said, an army marches on its stomach. So what would the military be without the taxpayers' dollars?
Non-existent.
But no one says that you can't pay taxes or you shouldn't pay taxes. So I think that is a bit of a contradiction with regards to it's permissible for us to feed the army, clothe the army, but you can't join the army and get the different benefits that they do have to offer, even without the intention of me fighting and killing anyone unjustly, let alone the blood of the Muslims in its sanctity, its sacred nature, the blood of the Muslims. Therefore, stay away from it. Don't involve yourself in it. However, if there is a program or an opportunity for you to grab the bull without its horns, then one may say maybe. In which I'm in this branch, which is a reserve branch of a reserve branch. It's a 2-year thingy. I get the education, I get the training, and then what? I'm going. And of course, that can be dangerous because you may start with one intention and another. So therefore, a Muslim should avoid that. He should stay away from that. But the concept of the military is a smaller piece of a larger problem that we're suffering from, living in these lands and in this country. And of course, many of us, I think we've seen this over the last 14 months, in which you see the reality, which has always been a reality, of your tax dollars and the bombs that go, and of course, what is the outcome of the usage of those bombs, and how these different countries and regimes would be nothing without breastfed. And of course, we know that the mother supplying the milk is, and we are those who are taking care of and supporting that milk cow. It was a very uncomfortable and heartbreaking reality that many of us choose to ignore. Some of us don't have the ability to do anything other than that, but at least know. Okay, so that's what I would say.
So just to make sure I understand, it's better.
Don't do it.
It's better to avoid it. But
some cases you may have to.
But you're not saying necessarily that every single indirect form is haram.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
any form of not even necessarily seeing combat, but joining the armed forces, feel like that is haram.
You directly involving yourself with the slaughter of anyone unjust, let alone Muslim. Absolutely. You clear on that?
Okay. Not.
You stay and do it.
Oh, I stay away from it, but it's
Yeah.
more of a case of I have a lot of associates who.
You give them advice as well. Find another profession. Find another scholarship. Find another way to train.
Thank you.
Understood?
Yes.
However, there are certain things, for example, for argument's sake, listen, I have the intention, it's a 2-year program. I sign up, blah, 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 I get this benefit, and then I'm what? I'm going. For argument's sake, can we say that that's absolutely haram? Allahu Alam. It's like many other things people do for a living, you know, let alone if you have the intention of helping out the Muslims. And Allah knows best. Hopefully that's clear. Inshallah. Fadl.
Sheikh, though it's illegal, what's the best practical way you could practice polygyny in America? And what are your thoughts on misyar marriage?
What are the best practical ways of practicing polygyny, and what are my thoughts on misyar marriage? To be honest with you, to simplify things, I think that if a man wants to have more than one wife, then what's stopping him? Bismillah. Bismillah. Culture, law, opinion, emotions, feelings, bismillah. Just do it. Don't talk about it, but do it. I would say that most people who talk about polygamy, most people are people who never experienced it and are never going to experience it. Most. There are some who have been in it and say, I don't want to deal with it, I don't want to do it. Or I'm doing it, you should do it too. But I would say 7 out of 10 fors or against the expert scholars on polygamy are people that have had one wife for the last 30 years. And women who've had their husband come home every single night for the last 10 years. So you can't listen to what people say and feel. It's from the deen, bismillah. These are the conditions, just like there are conditions for monogamy. So there's a lot of hypocrisy and double standard when it comes to monogamy versus polygamy. We've said this many times before, from the woman's aspect and from the man's aspect. A woman will accept a man who does all types of wrongs to her. And excuse my expressions, he's a dog. He knows he's a dog, but he's my dog. But you having another wife, well-known, honorable, no way. You don't have enough this, and you don't make enough this, and you barely enough this. But all of those shortcomings and flaws and faults, let alone cheating, infidelity, she'll totally accept it as long as he's there. Proving that 9 out of 10 women who are against it is because of their emotional inferiority. And they cannot come to bear with emotions. Do you submit or not? End of discussion. Monogamy isn't perfect, but polygamy has to be perfect. So what? You can cheat on me, it's okay. But you can't have more than one household that you're taking care of and providing for and looking after. That's unacceptable. So it's a lot of hypocrisy from men and from women. If you're going to do it, don't talk much about it, you just do it. As long as you fulfill what needs to be fulfilled, you're just, you're equal with that which you can be just and equal in, bismillah. The emotions, you can never ever, if someone has an emotional problem, no matter what you say or do, they're going to have that problem with you, no matter what. So that's my advice. As far as a misyar marriage, then if you and her agree on terms, and it's a win-win for both of you, she's pleased, whatever that misyar may be. I live in a different country, come visit me. I have my own wealth. I make 10 times more than you. I don't need your money. But I need a husband, I need a friend, I need a companion. I need a halal person I don't need your money. I need you as a person. If that's what you and her agree on, so be it. As long as you and her are clear and transparent with each other, with your demands and your expectations. Wallahu ta'ala alam. And of course, much can be said. Abir, you walked in the right moment. You said that much can be said of misyar. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Do you recommend writing it or just doing a verbal?
Writing down what?
With an account.
Writing down what?
The contract. You recommend because
You write it down as long as too much.
Okay.
It shouldn't be an essay. And I've seen, wallahi, I lie to you not, I've seen brothers get married with essays, with booklets. I swear to you not. Pages. This, that, you don't get another wife until I'm in college. If I'm 60, then booklets. It never ends well. It's always faster. So you and her being eye to eye, face to face, you and her wali, If there's something that needs to be written down, bismillah, we put it in paper. No problem. But a paper is useless if you aren't going to abide by it, such as international law. There's international law. They just don't care about it. But the laws are there. You cannot do this. You cannot blow up an embassy. You cannot kill someone in another foreign. Who cares if there's no obedience? So your intentions and her intentions will matter most. I don't care about a piece of paper. Yeah, so what? I told you that I will pay for you. Who cares? So the taqwa is going to be dominant over waraqah. And the waraqah is for there not to be any forgetfulness. And if and when there's a dispute, say, hey, no, contract. Wallahu ta'ala.
This came up in a discount topic yesterday, but if, when you file bankruptcy, right? So, your debt technically goes away. Okay, but in Islamically, does it go away or would you still owe that person?
If you file bankruptcy, there are rulings of bankruptcy. The fuqaha have spoke on. Muflis, one who's lost his money, or ahkam al-hajar, when a person is restricted from using his money, your assets being because you're being irresponsible, etc., being in gross debt. So there are rulings of one who's bankrupt. But the system that we're dealing with today isn't the Islamic system. It's the system of the central bank. So technically speaking, if you file for bankruptcy and they absolve you of your debt, they abate everything, then khalas. The problem comes with someone money and they demand that money. I don't care what the bank says. We both know they owe me the $10,000. You dying, you traveling, you making hajj or umrah without paying off that debt. That's a different story. But on paper with the system, if that is absolved, then it's expunged, or whatever word you wish to use. Wallahu a'lam.
When you're finishing texts, or whatever other text you finish, what are the best practices to hold on to that knowledge?
When finishing a metin or text, way to hold on to it. One of my teachers in Medina told me that if you read a book 3 times, it's better than reading 3 books. If you study one book, reading 5 different books. So you going over a thing like painting a wall. First layer, second layer, you coating it, you priming it, you make it that it's perfected. So don't be too hasty in moving on from book to book. And at the same time, don't stick to a book unnecessarily. So your teacher is the best guidance and the one who's going to give you an evaluation. He's going to test you to see, are you firm, you have it perfected, or you just done it, but you still need another coating of paint. If you don't have a teacher, or if you do have a teacher, but there are other books that you're studying on the side by yourself, you don't move on to the book until there's nothing that you're missing from the book. I can ask you, page 6, when you got it, you got it. Now it's time to move on. Secondly, is to know that a metin is a metin. It isn't a work, it's a primer. It's only meant to introduce you to the science. It's only meant to get you to take something bigger and heavier afterwards. And there is a thing which we have learned from the years, which we call ibadatul mutun, metin worship, in which there's a beginner's book that a person studies for 20 years, he teaches over and over and over again. And the author only wrote the book as a primer, just to get to wet your palate. Now come and have another cup of tea. This is just a sampler pack. It's a sampler pack. You're not going to buy 50 sampler packs. Just one sampler pack. I like that one. Now you buy 2 ounces, 4 ounces of tea. I really like this tea. Give me a lot of it. So a metin is only a stepping stool. Once you affected it, you move forward. You don't get stuck on the stepping stool. 3, last but not least, last piece of advice, practical advice, is time is limited. Energy is limited. There's so much knowledge to learn, and there's so many people. So you have to learn ways of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I don't have time to review every single book that I studied 10, 20 years ago. It's impossible. So I get free review when I teach it. I'm teaching you the basics. This book, I studied this 20 years ago, literally, 2 decades ago. When I teach it for you, inshallah, I get the reward. You get the benefit, and it's review from me. And I'm paying my 2.5. I'm paying my zakat on the end. So you have to learn how to multitask and how to kill birds with 1 stone. So reviewing it, having the teacher evaluate you in the book, and there's a time in which you have to move forward even if you don't feel that you got every single thing 100%. And last but not least is teaching it to others. Teaching it to others. You make review, teaching. Wallahu ta'ala. Faddal.
So I know that part of I think a phrase nowadays is and I think it has to do with cultural norms can affect
Rulings. Okay.
And I guess my question is, especially living in America, and especially with a lot of us having cultural roots in more than one country. Like, I'm Palestinian. The cultural norms of Palestine and some older Palestinians are very different than in America. And I lived in Palestine for a while while being raised in America, and lived in America for a while after being raised in Palestine. And I guess my question is, when you're dealing with people with different norms, what do you resort to?
Clear. The stronger of the two. The most dominant one. So if I'm in a room with brothers and sisters who come from Palestine, let's say 70% of them are raised, second or third generation. And there are 30% who come from Palestine. You're going to have to deal with the majority. They have the Palestinian blood, they know some things, but the culture, I'm from Brooklyn, born and raised. I'm from the Bronx. I'm from Connecticut. Yeah, you get what I'm trying to say? So you have to deal with what's dominant. And if you're in a room, 70% of people who migrated from Palestine, this is the custom, then you deal with that which is dominant.
So let's say it's a room of Pakistanis. Well, I'm not familiar with their customs. Is every single other person in the room is that? Do I just go with the culture of like the land that I'm in, which is America? That they should know?
No, you go with the dominant force.
And
Whatever that dominant force may be, as long as it isn't against Quran and Sunnah.
And if I have no knowledge of that culture,
Then
you adjust as you go?
tread with caution. Tread easily. Be careful. Just pay attention to how they pour the tea and who gets the tea in. You get what I'm trying to say? What's important is it's no problem if it isn't an act of worship and if it's not haram. The problem comes when it comes to the technical rulings, such as a woman's mahar, what should be paid, what the walima should be like, so on and so forth. This is America. We don't do the walima how they back home. You understand?
Yes.
As long as it doesn't go against the deen. And one of the greatest tricks of the shaitan is to think and feel that there is a clash between culture and Islam. And to think and feel that your culture comes before the deen. And if you put the deen before your culture, you're disrespecting your forefathers. It's all from the shaitan. And he has employed these weapons against most Muslims today. Unfortunately. Lil asaf. Regardless of the race. I don't want to practice this because I'm not Arab. I can't eat this or just because I'm not Arab. I'm going to do this because I am Arab. But the Prophet ﷺ, he said, so the shaitan doesn't care about your ethnicity. You come from Bangladesh, West Africa, it doesn't care. As long as he can get you to be in extreme. So we have to be careful. Wallahu a'lam. Alhamdulillah. Fadl ya akhi.
Chef, when, let's say there's either in your community or another community that's getting oppressed, when is it like, all right, now is the time for jihad? And like,
There are times in which jihad fi sabilillah is voluntary. And there are times in which jihad fi sabilillah is absolutely mandatory. Regardless whether you pay permission, regardless whether you have a debt, etc. It's fard ayn. You have to do it. But I don't think that's the main problem that we suffer from today. I think one of the things that we suffer from today is, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic, only Allah knows how I feel, people who know me know how I feel, and how I've taken many, looking for, I've went out on a long stretch saying many things, and have faced consequences, saying many things. So it's not about watering it down, but about being pessimistic. Anyone who knows me know, I don't care, unfortunately, even to my own detriment. But the sad reality is that you may want to go. I'm ready to go. I have to go. But sometimes things are so cloudy and murky.
yeah.
And sometimes things are so impractically possible for you to even get there. So an argument, you go from here to the Middle East. What country you can't go in? You have to stop here, this one, that one. So sometimes it's not about it being wag or not, but sometimes it may even be mumkin. لا يكون متاحا. And that's not pessimistic. We don't agree with those people who are pessimists and defeat. That is not our vibe at all. So don't quote me on that. But we're just talking about some practical things. Secondly is, and this is even more often, are the different games and schemes that the Muslims fall victim to. So without getting into any names or any specifics, just look at what just happened in the Middle East. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? This regime goes, he's ousted, but at what cost? Who's behind it? So sometimes you don't even realize you may be a part of that game. But for argument's sake, you listen, I don't care about this political game or scheme. I'm not worried about this border or get. This is what I believe. Bismillah, I tawakkal ala Allah. Whatever happens to me is meant to happen. I salute you. And you'll be raised upon your intentions. I'm not getting into all of the technical stuff. I'm going out there to do what I can for my brothers and sisters. Bismillah. If that's your spirit and that's your sincere intention, you have my support. But if another brother says, it's not about me being scared or afraid, but there is caution, because it isn't just a straight walk into the battle zone. And one of the reasons why the state of affairs are the way they are is because things are so layered, unfortunately. It's not just kuffar Muslim thing. Different nationalities, tribes, races, this, one, that. It's a lot going on. So you have to do what you feel in your heart. And don't let nobody tell you otherwise. And if you die or you get this or that, bismillah. That's what I would say. But there are times it is fardain. But even fardain, there are times in which you don't have the ability to do it. Such as Hajj. I want to make Hajj, it's fardain, but my visa got rejected. It isn't feasible for me to go and do it. You understand?
Question concerning your spouse. And because of circumstance changing, is it correct for, as a male, to feel kind of critical? My question is, if I was recently married in the past, and my wife, she wasn't used to traveling far distances, and we're going to look at where you're from, Philadelphia. From North Jersey to Philadelphia, consider this as travel. But now I have a current wife where when we got married, she was used to, moving about distances like this. And I now scale back on, looking at things, because her situation, she wasn't comfortable in these type of circumstances. But the second situation, she is.
Okay.
Should I feel hypocritical way because I do scale back because she was used to, moving
Meaning
around.
allowing them to travel and move?
Yeah.
Every situation is different. Every situation is different, and a big part of marriage is you learn. I did 10 years ago, I won't do today. You grow, you mature. So you may change, and that also may have an effect on some Islamic rulings. Back in the day when you saw me, it may not be now. I learned different things, which are practical. A woman can't travel out of mahram, so on and so forth. That may have been then. Now it's a different story. You learn different things. Reflect, but don't get stuck on the past. And you try your best to be just with your wife or your wives. And don't let no one hold anything against you back, years ago. That's in the past. You got to move forward. The past is the past. So don't yourself with regret or grief because it was meant to be. If you learned something, you matured something. This wife is different. She's more, acclimated to this. So be it. Wallahu a'lam. Faddal Sayyid.
What do you see to be the biggest issue that plagues your community, the youth in your community?
My
The
community,
youth in your community, and what do you see to be the cure for that?
the biggest cancer is, I would say, looking down on religiosity and religious pious people to be corny and boring and queer. And looking at people who live in a fake, phony, synthetic, plastic world as being cool and hip and tough and such and such. So you being pious and righteous, the way you dress, what you do, that's boring. But these people here that I'm watching on the screen and this one, that one, that's what I want to be like and dress like. There are many problems. Many problems. This is one of the greatest problems, is that there's a culture of doing the right thing is corny. Other communities may be different. Where I come from, that's what I consider to be the most one. I'll share something with you, and I shared this before. It was a podcast I was watching once. One person on the podcast was very famous in Philly when I was growing up. Late 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. He was a really, really, really talented rapper. And of course, New York, Jersey, Connecticut is no different. When I'm talking about Philly, you growing up, you got everybody rap. Certain things that you have to have. You know how to rap, you got a slap box, so on and so forth. Maybe to this day. So in the lunchroom, at lunchtime, everybody is what? Is rapping. He's on the table, bang, he got the beats. with the plastic spoons, you rapping, freestyling, and battling. So rap was big. Everybody rapper. So back in the day, there was a thing called mixtapes. It's different now. You guys are, this episode and this podcast. It's different now. So you could tape. The mixtapes was the hottest thing out on the streets. When the mixtape dropped, he was like, yo, this is crazy. Not the album, but the mixtape. So he was on fire. This was years ago. His professional career really didn't go that far. But he revived his career like me did with podcasts. So he's considered to be a hip, slang, gifted gab type of guy. So he's on a podcast with somebody. And the person he's on a podcast with, they're both from Philly. He was not a rapper, but he was more, into whatever. And he actually did a lot of time. So he said, share some of your experiences. Listen to this now. He said, I did such and such amount of years, federal, state prison, not county. And he says, when I went to the jail, I saw all the people from different parts of Philly. He from this part, he from that part, he from this project, blah, blah, blah. I saw the cliques and the sets. And all they could do was just offer me street stuff. And he said, there's nothing that they could teach me about the streets. I did, and I seen everything at a young age. Gunplay, women, money, drugs. I did it all. I seen it all. So I'm really uninterested in all of that stuff in jail. These guys got numbers, double digits, and they still like they're on the streets. So he said, in jail, I did all of these years taken from my life, and it came to one realization. And that realization was all of those years, I was afraid and scared of being myself. I wanted to do what I wanted to be. And I only learned it after such and such amount of years in jail. Doing this stuff in the streets, I didn't want to do it. He wanted me. He said it was the cool thing to do. She, them, those people. This is what I wanted. This is what I always wanted to do as a child. So how many people, if they had that mindset, from youth, if they had that mindset, it's okay to be you. You don't gotta be tough and this and that. You don't have to be chasing girls and this and that, not to be gay. You don't have to chasing it. You don't have to do it. Just be who you are. So I think that's the greatest thing youth face is looking up to these people who are to be looked down upon. Looking up to someone who should be what? Looked down upon. You watching every 5 seconds. You can't trust no one. This is fake. This is rented. This is synthetic. She's a this. She's a that. This is fake. This is enhanced. That's no lifestyle to live. But when you work, you earn your own money, the halal way, your own money to spend. You go to sleep at night. You wake up at night. That's how you live. You can travel freely. There's nobody restricting your movements. You can't go here. You got to check in. You go to this airplane. That's not how you live. So I think that's the first thing. And to add, the second biggest problem of our community with the youth is they don't travel enough. They need to get on an airplane and leave and see how big the world is and how much fun and joy there is in outside from your little block or your neighborhood or your little village. There's so much in the world to see. You can't see it if you're doing 10 or 20 years. You can't experience the world if you're in a wheelchair. You can't experience this fun if you got this disease that you can't get rid of. You can't enjoy life. So you get stuck in a bubble and thinking this is everything. That's when the shaitan puts on a stranglehold and along those lines. Further.
Occasionally, my family receives gift baskets from non-Muslim sources, and occasionally you'll find objects of bottles of wine or like pork inside those gift baskets. And I've always, whenever they come in, I'm saying, okay, cool, just pour out the wine, you throw out the pork. Occasionally, I get pushback on, oh, we can give it to someone who is not haram for.
Understood.
And so I guess my question is, number one, can you give away or sell those items, and specifically the pork, because I know alcohol is
No, you destroy everything.
So you can't give away
Destroy
anything
it.
that's haram for you to consume.
Destroy it. Do not gift it. Do not give it to anyone. Unless it's a matter of necessity. Someone is starving. Or unless it was, for argument's sake, you have a grandmother that you have to visit. She needs food. You hand food. Other than that, you do not voluntarily, willingly give a non-Muslim, which is haram for you to consume. You destroy it. You don't take any benefit from it. Unless it's something that you can benefit from, such as silk or gold. Give it to your wife. You can turn it into something else. But alcohol is alcohol. Flesh of swine is the flesh of swine. Wallahu a'lam. Fadl ya akhi.
Sheikh, being like a student of knowledge or an imam or in that scene, there's a lot of time commitments. And ideally you would want your spouse to be on the same page and attending events with you or being in the masjid with you. That's not always the case. So with that introduction, can you speak a little bit about like the how Zawja has,
Clear.
especially on
Clear. Well, first and foremost is, like you said, the most ideal situation is for your wife to be on board. Either she's a student of knowledge like you, and if not, she's a lover of ilm. And this is why some of the Salaf, they say, kun aliman, or muta'alliman, wa la takun al-thalitha fatahlik, or wa la takun mubghidan lil-ilm. Either you be a scholar or a learner. Never ever be the third, meaning someone who hates the knowledge. So right now, I'm not studious. I'm not that articulate, but I know. So I support you. I follow you. You know, you're my bigger brother. You're my little brother. Our relationship is different, but when I see you doing your thing, I'm behind you. I don't speak, I don't talk, but I'm with you. And I know that your life is going to be different than average little brother or bigger brother. So your wife has to have that mindset. Either you're coming to the conference with me, you're doing a sister's halqa, or at least she knows I'm going to be home a little late. I don't have a normal 9 to 5. People call me 2 a.m. Hey, Sheikh, I got into an argument with my wife, blah, 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 blah. Is the talaq, does it count or not? I have to take the call. It's supposed to be a 15-minute call. It may take 30 minutes. Somebody's calling me saying, I want to commit suicide. Literally, people contact me. I lied to you not. I want to take my life. Is it permissible for me to commit suicide? I can't just rush that person off the phone. So you have to have your wife who's either doing it with you, hey, that's the most perfect situation. And if not, then she's sympathetic and empathetic that your lifestyle is a little different. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most just and most merciful. Anything that you think is taken away from you, Allah gives you double in replacement. That's a fact. So if you don't have the more time, the barakah, the dua, the places that you go, the people that you meet, the experiences that you'll be a part of by being involved with ilm. Your wife has to have one of those two mindsets. If she has the third mindset, why are you out? Where are you? No, I don't want you. No, you're buying too many books. No, 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 no. It's not going to last. It's not going to work. And it's going to lead to a stress. I married you. You're handsome. You're cool. I like the way you dress. The ilm and the lifestyle, that's the real thing. And I'm willing to sacrifice for that. And then, of course, on your part, you have to make sure that you do spend time with your family. Some brothers, they do ignore their family, even if they don't realize it. But it goes to the hypocrisy. The monogamy is messed up, but the polygamy has to be perfect. I'm a truck driver. I go to sleep. I come home late. I have fellas. Do you complain? Because I'm making the money. But damn, oh, you're late. Oh. So why are you really complaining? So to have sincere intentions. And these things have to be discussed with the woman that you want to marry before you marry her. And the last thing that I will say to you, so before that last point, make sure you spend time with your family. Make sure you take them with you. Make sure you include them. You can kill two birds with a stone. We're going to the conference together. We're going to the masjid together. I want to take you to a place that you wouldn't normally go because I got the invite. Here's the talk. After that, we go out to cream with the kids. Ice cream, brownies. We go to the park. We're going shopping. Make time for your family. And even if you have to multitask, you have a book with you on the side, you have to take a phone call, so on and so forth, but make time. Last but not least is, I tell brothers who study with me that they want to get married, Sheikh, I'm going to get married, and I ask them, did you discuss me with her? What do you mean, Sheikh? Did you tell her that you're married already? What are you talking about? I don't have, yes or no? No, I'm not married yet. Assalamu alaikum. It was nice meeting you. Alhamdulillah, the knowledge that you took from me, I'll see you. I.e., when he gets married, I'll never see him in the classes again. Why not? Because he didn't tell the woman that he was already what? Married. That's my first wife. This is my first wife. She takes the most of my money, my time, and my attention. Do you accept that? You won't be impressed. If you accept that, bismillah. And if not, then you can marry another brother who's more handsome than me, who dresses better than me. But if you want to be a part of this lifestyle of ilm, you have to know that she is the main wife. I'm sorry. So that's that. You have to have that commitment. And if you don't have commitment, then in most cases, and if your wife isn't supportive, you're going to stop college. And unfortunately, you're just going to become an average brother. He used to see, he used to read, now he's just what? Assalamu alaikum, what's up, Sheikh? How you doing? He's just an average brother. We don't have to discuss hadith anymore. He's just an average brother in Jumu'ah. And that's sad. So if you really want knowledge, you have to sacrifice for it. And knowledge has to be bigger and greater than any person. I tell you all types of stories, personal stories, family members. Wallahu a'lam. Wa alaikum salam. Fadl ya akhi.
The question is like twofold. The first one is working at a riba-based company like a bank, in IT, or as a janitor. Or
Okay.
something like that. And then the second part is a company that might have been built on riba, but for example, it's like a car dealership or something.
Understood. First and foremost is being frank. Totally, absolutely avoiding riba. 2025. Snap out of the dream. It's not happening. Here and there, but in general, you can't escape it. I remember one time I was in a car dealership years ago, and I went to one dealership. It was Toyota first, and it happened to be a Muslim guy. Right? Mashallah, good brother. I think he was from Pakistan. Alhamdulillah. Nothing against Pakistan. I love my brothers from Pakistan. That's a fact. So he says, hey, how you doing? He says, I know you don't want to do bad. I want to give you a good deal. We have Camry, we have 4Runner, we have, so on and so forth. I said, Bismillah. So it didn't work out. So I left, went to Chevy dealership, talked to the people, told them what I was looking for. So he said, go talk to such and such, D'Agostino, blah, 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 Italian guy. He's been working here for 30 years. So I went to his office. So I started telling him, blah, 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 I'm looking for something. I don't want to pay this. And he said, what? He said, he told you that you're going to get the new car off the lot, blah, 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 without no rebate, without nothing? No. He said, he lied to you. He says, anyone at any dealership telling you that there's no involvement whatsoever of interest is lying to your face. Then he took the big, huge, gigantic screen, turned it all the way around, and come here. He said, look at this. This is what I see, what the customer's not supposed to see. You see that right there? 5,000, 6,000, four-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, heated seats. It's impossible. So the bank is in control of every. Know that. With the modern world today. All wars, banks, buildings, businesses, sports, foods, trends, everything is under the power of the bank. Just know that. Anyone telling you otherwise is not being honest with you. People say, I want to leave the city, I want to live in the country. Oh, no problem. I want to go off the grid. All right, how are you getting off the grid? What you using to get off the grid? The grid. You're using the grid to do what? To get off the grid. You're saving up money, you buy things to live off the grid. You grow things in the country. Where do the people in the country farms? Where do they sell their products? In the city. So you have to be mindful that I'm directly dealing with the riba. I'm not directly dealing with the khamr. I'm not directly killing and shooting people. I clean up, I'm security, I'm this and I'm that. That's my job. Wherever you go, somehow, somebody's going to be some involvement and some attachment. And this is why many of the Salaf, they would say, one of the hardest things to find are, they would say, رَجُلٌ يَعْمَلُ عَلَى سُنَّةٍ is a man who truly implements sunnah. And secondly, is a true friend, a loyal friend, that loves you, that's there for you, that tells you when you're wrong. A true friend is a very rare thing. And last but not least is a pure dinar. A pure dinar, a gold coin that's clean, that has no blood or dhulm attached to it. They said that over 1,300 years ago. So it was very difficult. So for a lot of us, you try to avoid the direct things the best way you can. If you can't work in the supermarket because it's a pork, no problem. Nor can you be a security guard, no problem. Nor can you be a painter or electrician or construction worker. Because all of those entities exist open and closed with what? With you. So you try your best. Understand? You try your best, you minimize your involvement, you pay extra zakat, you pay extra sadaqah. And I'm not being pessimistic. I'm just trying to keep it real. There's a big thing between taking what you need and taking what you need. And that's where you slip. I need this car with some type of riba, which is minimal. Versus I want this car, which has a bigger slice of the riba. Understand? And of course, when you get a house, allow riba type of involvement, what's the first thing they ask you for, Bill? Your what? Your credit check. And the credit check is based off of what? How good are you with the riba for you to deal with no riba? That's the reality. But many people, they want to live in a world of convenience. They want to live in a bubble. And that's unfortunate. Wallahu a'lam. Further, ya akhi.
So, men have
Sorry?
men have an attraction towards women. That's why they can't be friends and they can't hang out because it's a fitna and it can lead them towards sin.
Okay.
You know the risk of that when men are hanging out with men. However, let's say there's a brother who struggles with homosexual desires.
Mhm.
He is struggling with it. It's not something he's leaning towards. It's not something he wants to do.
Clear.
Right? He wants to be pious.
Understood.
In that situation, is being friends with men a fitna for him? Similar to how men being friends with women is a fitna for them generally.
Understood.
Like, how do you deal with that situation?
Clear. Well, it's a little similar and it's a little different. The similarity is if a person feels the urge towards the same sex, then he is to take his precaution. Take his precaution. I love to hang out with you guys, but I'm fighting these evil thoughts and no thank you. Take his precaution. And of course, it's a little different, whereas a man has a responsibility to be around other men, such as the prayer, such as Hajj, such as Umrah, such as Jihad, such as joining the good, forbidding the evil. But if you know that the shaitan is whispering to you, and he's attacking you, and you're fighting it, you take your precaution. And you have a set of rulings. I would love to come to the masjid, but it's A'udhu Billah. And to be honest with you, over the years, I've had several people contact me talking about homosexuality. You'd be shocked some of the stories I would tell you, literally. You'd be shocked. But like the Salaf al-Salih, like they told us, Rahimallahu rajulan arafa qadra nafsihi. May Allah have mercy upon a man who knows himself and who knows his own value. I have a problem that I'm fighting, so therefore, I stay away. So you have to switch. And a man has to do whatever he needs to go back to his natural way. And until then, you stay away. You avoid it, even if it's the same sex.
So,
Even if it's the same sex, yes.
So in that situation though, let's say he only has desire for men, not for women, can he spend time with women?
No. No, he should not spend time with women. And the reason behind that is that that's adding more to his disease. And more emasculate and more feminine. You understand? And that's normalizing that behavior. Now, just to be honest with you, I don't differ with the fact people may have a natural, quote-unquote, inclination towards men. Somebody may make that argument. I was never molested. I was never raped. I just don't like women. Okay, no problem. Cool. No one can deny the fact that homosexuality and LGBTQ has become a trend. And human nature is monkey see, monkey do. So he allows it, they allow it, and next thing you know, it is out of control. So for argument's sake, this person isn't attracted to the women, he still isn't allowed to be with them and to fraternize with them and to flirt with them. Because even if he isn't thinking about making zina, it's going to lead another person to think that it's okay. And it must be shunned. Bad behavior has to be shunned. At its root, immediate. And of course, there's a long discussion with regards to what does a Muslim do who has those thoughts or feelings. He has to fight himself. He has to fight himself. Like he has to fight himself for anything else. A person's a heterosexual. A person's hypersexual. I love women. Of all kinds, races, heights. Love women. I can't stop thinking of women 25/8. Not 24/7. Is he allowed to just go and just do whatever he wants with any woman walking or sitting or crawling? No. What does he have to do?
Control himself.
Thank you. He has to fight himself. He cannot submit to his desires. Are you telling me that I'm not hypersexual? You telling me I don't have it? You can't just give in to your desires. And this is one of the problems with the discussion of the Islamic ruling on homosexuality. Normalizing it, popularizing it, versus for argument, it's an isolated situation. And you are required to fight yourself against any unlawful urge or thought. A person is a kleptomaniac. I love stealing. I'm good at stealing. Stealing, food tastes better when you steal it. The candy is sweeter when you steal it. Aren't there people like this in the world?
Yes.
They're very quick, very good at stealing. Do we allow it? خلاص خليك يعني تصل عادي. No. You have to do what? You have to touch yourself. And you fighting yourself, even if you're defeated, you don't normalize it. So that's what we say with regards to anybody, male or female, with homosexual inclination or desire. And their lives don't doubt this from the shaitan. There's no question that. Our homosexuality is unnatural. It's a fact. It's irregular and it's abnormal. Wallahu a'lam. Fadl Abir.
What does Islam say about like gut feelings? How much weight do we put on that, and is there a way, if it's a real thing, to like fine tune it?
Gut feelings are important in Islam. A part of is your gut feeling. Is the natural ability that Allah has given you to want, to desire, and to discern. Alam naj'al lahu, Allah says, have we not made for him what? Ainain. For you to see things on your own. To speak, to hear, to feel. So that's a fact. Allah tells us about the munafiqun. They have qulub, they don't comprehend. Qulub, hearts. The Prophet ﷺ tells many hadith with regards to bir. ما وقر في القلب وطمأنت إليه النفس. That which you feel comfortable with. دع ما يريبك. Many hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says anything that makes you feel funny, stay away from it. And Allah has no doubt that is gut feeling, instinct. Your conscience pricking you. This is wrong, even if you don't know the hadith. You don't know the ruling of it, but it doesn't feel right. So a part of the fitrah is instinct, is your gut feeling. That's right. How much do you rely upon it? It depends on how honestly you live. The stronger, the purer your lifestyle, the more honest your lifestyle, the stronger your intuition will be. And the more you rely, you use your intuition, the stronger it grows, like your memory. So just go out one day with the GPS. Go everywhere, work, school, that shit, without using no GPS. You may get lost, you may get stuck in traffic, but eventually you'll force yourself to memorize it, and the next thing you know, but the more you rely and depend upon the GPS, the weaker you grow. So most of us, we're taught to ignore our instincts. You want to marry a sister. It don't feel right. Something is off with her. She's, man, it's crazy. But you know that your stomach is telling you something ain't right about this sister. Something is not right. You keep ignoring it because she's so beautiful. She's so attractive. So every time you put your instinct on pause, you numb it, you turn it down, it grows weaker and weaker. And the more you listen to it, even if you don't act upon it, but you listen to it, you consider what it's trying to tell you, the stronger it grows. So eating from the halal, it aids in firasa. You having a sixth sense or a third eye. Halal, being honest with people, being brave, putting your trust in Allah, all of these things enhance your instinct. And of course, you cannot rely on your instincts or your sixth sense or your third eye in light of the rulings of Islam. Islam says pray in Jama'ah, and then you say something is telling me I shouldn't pray in Jama'ah, I should pray by myself at home. That's a different story. We're not talking about that. We're talking about something which is meskuta. There's no ruling about it, or if it's something totally worldly. Trust your instincts. And if you look at detectives, best detectives are those who listen to their instincts the most. They learn, follow your hunch, always. In most cases, where there's smoke, there's fire. I'm telling you something about this guy, let's follow him. No, we don't have the papers, trust me. And in most cases, they end up what? They find something. Even not him, he knows the one. So it's very important, huh? Allahu Akbar. Father Victor.
Just a reminder, I don't have a question, but it's 4 minutes to 11.
So I have 4 minutes. Inshallah. Father Yahi.
What is your opinion or feedback on how Muslims normalize smoking in their countries?
Understood. Smoking is extremely harmful. No one can differ on that fact. It's harmful to your wallet. It's harmful to your lungs. It's harmful to your clothes. It's harmful to your kids. Even if smoking isn't haram, but let's just say it's just makruh. All right, no problem. But how long are we just going to keep doing the makruh? Open, public, makruh every day. What's going to happen to your heart? What's going to happen to your iman? Your iman is not going to grow by you just keep doing something which is disliked. Let alone if smoking is haram, cancer. How much money you spend on cigarettes? Your son starts smoking, everybody starts smoking. I can't go to the masjid right now because of my breath. And I can't because of how I smell. And there's so much good that smoking prevents you from. So smoking is a big, huge problem. Let alone one of the main reasons why people smoke is because of stress. How are we making our main outlet for stress other than the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Like a drink. It's wrong. In which this is my go-to for stress instead of, Ya Allah. So there's a lot of backwardsness involved in smoking when it comes to Muslims. As far as the Muslim countries, man, One must die. You know, it is what it is. You know, some people, they're never going to stop smoking, fortunately. But if you can reach someone, you can teach someone at a young age, you tell before it's too late. Because most people who are addicted to smoking, it started when they're young. Like a lot of addictions. So it's a big problem. I mean, how much money do Muslims make from Muslims by selling them cigarettes? Just think about that. How pressure, economic force do they have against the Muslim countries by boycotting them with cigarettes, importing cigarettes? So anything that you're addicted to, and you have to give someone else, you hand them a great deal of power. A great deal of power. They're carried in front of the donkey. So it's a smoke epidemic. It's a big, huge problem. It's a big problem in this country and outside the country. However, there are levels to smoking. Someone who smokes a cigarette is better than someone who smokes weed. Someone who vapes is better than smoking crack. It's better than heroin or fentanyl or trank or, you know what guys' trank is?
Tranquilizers?
Tell them what trank is, Zach, in our city. Trank is a horse tranquilizer.
Ketamine?
Call it what you want, and mix it with fentanyl. So this is strong enough to knock a horse out. What do to you? Melo, help us all.
Just a clarifying question, but in Ramadan, good deeds have a higher reward, or double, triple, whatever. Is it the same for bad deeds?
Questions regarding deeds being multiplied in Ramadan. Them being multiplied in goodness for sure. The general rule is that in virtuous times and virtuous places, it goes ways. It's a two-way street. That's the general rule. More sins because it's such a holy sacred place or holy sacred time. And there are many hadith the Prophet tells us of certain acts after Asr prayer. It's worse. It's already haram after Asr. That's supposed to be a sacred time. You just made Asr. So the general rule is yes. Wallahu a'lam. Fadda.
Sheikh, what's the balance in having like separation, especially in like events like this?
Understood.
There's a whole bunch of other questions of that. What are your thoughts about female diaries? Where did that come from?
Clear.
Diaries and stuff like that.
As far as mingling between sexes, or interaction between sexes, or segregation of sexes, I've spoken on this many times. I have lectures on it, detailed discussions. Some things are black, some things are white, some things are gray. So there are many rulings in which it's totally, clearly, absolutely haram. No discussion. Men and women cannot be like this in this instance, in this nature. And then there are other times and places in which men and women can be under roof in one room. And then there are other times in which it's going to depend on the culture. What's considered to be obscene, what's flirtatious. But in this culture, it's nothing wrong. You come over my house, for argument's sake, my wife serves you the tea. There's nothing wrong with that. She's covered, you're not staring, that's considered to be honoring the guests. But in another country, another culture, the women are totally separated from the men. My sister's going to serve the tea. So, some things are black, haram, no doubt. Some things are white, halal. No one can say it's haram. And there are other things going to depend on tomato, ijtihad. So therefore, general rules, this is very important. The more the other normal rules are followed, then the lesser the problem of the remixing is. Such as hijab. The better the women are covered, the less of a problem it is for them to be in the same room. You clear on that? The worse they're covered, the more it is for it to be ikhtilat muharram. Perfume, makeup, tight clothes, high heels, anything that's against hijab. And that's another discussion to have. My wife, my daughter, how I allow my wife to dress, how my sisters dress. Unfortunately, that's a long lecture in itself. I know him. So, the hijab is proper, not perfect. Nobody's going to be perfect, but it's proper. The edit of the voice, perfume, is the gaze being lowered. So, for argument's sake, men on this side, women on that side. So first and foremost, their bodies are physically separated. That's already a plus. That's a green check. Versus everybody peppered all together. The sisters that are all sitting on the right side are covered properly. That's already a what? That's a green check. The men are being respectful with their eyes. That's a what? It's a green check. The question she asks respectfully, laughing, giggling, boisterous, that's a red X. So you want to add up more green checks and less what? X's. The more green checks you have, the easier it is. So whether it's totally separated, whether they're in the back, whether they're right side, it's based off of the rules that are followed. Clear on that?
Yeah.
It is not a rule that men and women cannot be on one roof at the same time. And anyone who says that is not scholastic. It's not scholastic. And anyone who says that men and women can be in one room, absolutely, على الإطلاق كذلك, he's far from knowledge. على حسب, it depends. As far as female da'is, then obviously there's good, there's bad, and there's ugly. There's good, there's bad, and there's ugly. So, going back to those principles, using that yardstick. For argument's sake, the sister is speaking in front of men. For argument's sake, how is she covered? Even for argument's sake, how is she covered? Tight, makeup, this, that, story. Hands, arms, loud, da da da, versus her being composed. Different story. Men are actually listening to what she has something because she's actually talking about ilm, knowledge, not some emotional blah 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 blah. I'm not listening to anything she's saying. I just think she's pretty. Just be honest. And we all know that all men in the audience right now are what? Let's keep it real. And the predator is that she's not saying what? She's not talking about nothing. No kitab, no nothing beneficial. She's just talking about a bunch of nonsense. So whenever the rules are followed more, the ruling is what? You guys understand how it works? So speaking to women, speaking to men, being dressed properly, being emotional. And of course, there are other problems with regards to men being in charge of women being in charge of men. Can a woman be an imam? And being an Islamic leader, and that's a type of what?
Imam.
It's a type of leadership. So it's something that needs to be discussed. It needs to be what? Discussed, and it has to be discussed properly. Without the emotions, without the extremes. We need to sit down, like we're doing business. Let's talk, let's do the money. Bang, how much? Let's count it out. Let's put the figures on the table, and then let's come up with a conclusion. We believe in this masjid, or this conference, that it is cool for women to be if. And if it doesn't fit, then, Allahu ta'ala alam. Fadli akhi.
So I have a question about or events in general, nothing about separate men and women, separate rooms, separate everything, but they have debke,
Debke is that. I know what debke is.
They have debke, or they have the
right, that's the Palestinian getting sturdy, right? Get real sturdy.
or at the same time they also have
Zach,
like
watch yourself. Alright, you know what?
You know how I get down. So you know how I get down.
they have like the cultural music on as well.
Okay.
So both is the debke when celebrated, is that halal, haram, and then the same thing like
It's very
the
simple.
music added on.
It's a very simple ruling. Very simple. Let's just be honest. You're taking the position that music's haram. Period. Debka or not. Duff is one thing. Women's, singing, making noise, dancing. But we're talking about the beats, the music, blasting. Haram's haram. If a person says, not me, but if a person says music is lawful as long as it's cursing, as long as it's no this, as long as it's not excessive, then there you have it. There is no in between. Music is not, it doesn't go from haram to halal, just a wedding. And that's a mistake that many people they make. People are trying to be religious and pious, they don't listen to music haram, and then you go to their wedding and all of a sudden, how does it become? So there's no in between. Dancing is one thing. Singing, depending. Duff is one thing. But blasting the music, dancing, even with the separation of genders, that's a different story. But however, to be honest with you, alhamdulillah, if the women and the men are separated, they're singing, they have the music, that doesn't mean in one hall. That's a fact. It's better than them being in one hall. For argument's sake, a person says, look, I'm sorry, I know it's haram, but the culture, this wedding, I just got to get it out of my system and khalas, Toba afterwards. It's not a good approach, but at least that's better than someone who just saying it's okay.
So if that becomes because a lot of times it's definitely from the culture.
The norm.
If it becomes do like a heavy back and forth with parents or family over this. Like at that point, like
fear the law the best way you can. If your father arms you and says, shut up, you're doing it the traditional way. I don't care what you say. I don't care what Sheikh says. Here's my son. This may be the only time you get married, you're going to do it. And if you can't fight with him, you can't argue with him, there's nothing you can do. But if they respect your opinion and your feelings, and you do have a voice, then you tell them, listen guys, it's nothing personal. I'm not even saying it's haram, because once you use that word, you're into an argument and a fight. You say it's haram, but my sheikh from back home says it's halal. And then you're in a sheikh war. So you can just say, I would prefer no music, please. I don't want the women and the men being with each other. I don't want my wife to walk and see the people, please. I don't feel comfortable with it. No one can ever fight you with your comfortability. But the moment you say haram, haram, now you've already the anti. You're shaddid, you're Wahhabi, you're this, Salafi, blah, 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 blah. You open up the door for that stuff. Say, I don't want no music. No, thank you. I want to have a chill, easy wedding, so on and so forth. So if you have the option, then you do it like that. But if your hand is forced, what can you do?
Yeah. So same music, no, same situation as before. Debke on its own. Now is that
a dance, a cultural dance by men? It doesn't imitate women. It doesn't imitate the kuffar. It's a cultural dance showing happiness. And sometimes many cultural dances are reminiscent of warfare. Bismillah. Sword dance, dagger dance, whatever the case may be. Bismillah. Inshallah khair. It's all good. Yeah. Allah. Fadl akhi.
I wanted to ask about cursing, like you were talking about norms, and cursing is a very big norm. And specifically, I wanted to ask also about the N-word as well.
Understood. Well, obviously, cursing is prohibited. And in many hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that tell us that the believer isn't someone who's obscene. The believer isn't lewd. The Prophet was lewd, he wasn't obscene. Nor did he allow people to turn him to being obscene. What happened to fahish? He didn't allow someone to get under their skin and then be fahish. So being obscene, that in itself, that's nothing to discuss. That's nothing to discuss. As far as using the N-word, I've been asked about this many times before, and I would say, there is no doubt that the N-word has evolved. It evolved from its initial usage to being the color black in Central Portuguese to being applied to a people or a race or class to this very day. And it got nothing to do with white, black, Jim Crow. Oh, you from Pakistan, but at the same time, you what? That's my, you know? So the evolution to the term, but I'll say this to you. Make sure that you use the term, make sure you got your license. Yeah. So what I mean by that is you've been raised in that environment and it's okay. So it's not a black and white thing, but let's make it a black and white thing. For argument, let's take off for argument's sake. So right now, where your family from?
India.
From India.
Yeah.
Let's say for example you was raised in the hood. The hood. We grew up from a young age. All the stuff that we did and went through, you was there. You're Indian by race, but at the same time, you no different than the blacks, whites, and the Puerto Ricans, whatever. You one of us.
It's like a culture thing, right?
Then you got a license. But if you don't have that license, and you throw in a word or the term, somebody may fact check you. What you just say? Where you from? Blah, blah, blah. I mean that. But ain't nobody gonna talk to you like that because they already know. He's already. So you gotta make sure you got your license. You clear on that or not? That's what I would say.
Do license transfer like state to state?
Some states.
You might have transferred back.
Yeah. Exactly. Not all states, right?
Some license only valid is.
There you go. There you go. So it all depends.
It's basically a color.
He gave us a list.
I don't give out license. I'm not a tough guy. I'm not from the hood. I don't know those things. You gotta talk to the Brooklyn, the Philly guys, the real from the streets.
I don't think they accept in the South. Like
in the South?
Yeah. Like I've never seen any issue with Jersey and New York, but like
in the South,
I seen they had
like I said, it depends. It depends. I think it depends on who you are and what type of person you are, and how you use it. Like anything else. You get what I'm trying to say? That's what I was saying. I mean, there are parallels of that in other cultures as well. There are words and terms that somebody from this country uses. You can't use unless you got the card. I was around Indians my whole life. I grew up around them. I was in the mass shit, so I could say this. But somebody that know nothing about Indian culture say, yo, what? You can't say that. You dig me? Below water.
But would I be
Like a sin?
That's also a good question, but I was gonna say, is it beneficial for me to tell other people not to say it, or should I just leave it?
I mean, you should speak that which is best. Say that which is best. The law tells us to speak that which is best.
But like, cause I mean, I'm from Jersey City, like
Okay.
in our culture at YM and stuff like that, it's we call each other out, we hold each other accountable when like we curse and things like that, and it's very beneficial. But would that apply like to that? Is
Good.
we call each other out?
It depends on the context. But it's not the same as you saying a heavy curse word, for sure. There's a difference.
And sorry, if I can see.
Is it a sin? Like he said about the culture. Saying it to one person in one scenario is an endearment. That's me telling you, you my guy.
Yeah, for sure.
But another culture, another say, whoa, you might get, yeah. So it could be a sin in certain instances. Culture and the language are inseparable. Culture and language go what? Hand in hand. تفضل يا أخي.
So I got a question, it's kind of like a multiple question. It's like, so revert, right? I'm the lad, took my shahada a few years ago. And then I found a woman, she took shahada after me. We got married, alhamdulillah, she covers up, we have children. So I wanted to take on another wife, right? And she wanted to she wanted to revert, but she wasn't she knew she wanted to cover up, but you had to slowly get to the point where she covered up, you know what I mean? She probably was a Muslim, obviously was a Muslim for 20 some years, and I was explaining to my wife at the time, like, you took shahada, you look at you now, all the way up, but you had the growth.
It was a growth.
It was a growth, you know what I mean? She, even though I know she has no really say in the matter, but because I am somebody who does practice polygyny, and I do like to talk to my wife, so I like to keep my household calm. She just felt like, maybe you should go get somebody who is already Muslim already and don't try to build a Muslim. And I said, like, alhamdulillah, you was able to be built, and look what we built after that, you know what I mean? So what do you feel about that? Like,
Clear. Well, I think that your wife's feelings are valid. Forget you or her, but just her, the first wife. She might like, this is how I cover up. I go outside of the house every day like this. People stare at me. People may discriminate against me. Family members saying stuff about me. And now you're going to go out and get a woman who wants to grow. How's she going to dress? So how do I have to walk down the street with you covered up, and you get the chance to walk down the street with this woman, any restaurant, any place, without feeling that pressure. So she may feel that way. And I think that you should try your best to consider her feelings, even, and it's an important point that they mentioned. This is extremely important for anybody trying to get or planning on having more than one wife. The key word was, she does say in the matter. That is extremely important. You consider your wife's feelings, I love you, be kind to women, but ultimately the decision is in my hands. There is no I allow or I accept. That has to get done away with. That's not from Islam, that's not from manhood. What would you like to do? What would you like to ask? But at the end of the day, the decision is what? It's mine. And if your players don't know that you're the coach, you're the head coach, and you got the wrong players on your team.
Or you're a bad head coach.
Either or. Both is just as bad. So therefore, you try to consider her feelings. And obviously, you got to tell her, like, look, people were patient with you. You should be patient with us. However, co-wife, if we all wired as a family, I'm covering how she going to dress. So I think it has to be a 50-50 thing. You try to consider her feelings, but at the same time, you tell a sister that's new to Islam, certain things you take gradually, and other things you have to do immediately. Covering up is an obligation. It's not a choice. Learning this, doing one thing, but yeah, how you come out the house, that's something that you have to do immediately. So, talk to her, see where her head is. If she's saying, inshallah, I'm trying, it's going to take some time, but I'm ready to know I'm not fully percent, but I'm going to do it just because you want me to do it right now, that's a different story. You do the internal growth. But the outward appearance is no option. You don't have no choice in that, and that's also very harmful with the Muslims today. Allah knows what's in my heart, and I'm trying. We keep saying that. Until when? We're going to keep trying to do that which is fard. You don't have a choice. You have to. It's haram for you to do this. So, that's what I would say. And, bismillah. Tell her, like, look, you come on board, the train is moving. I give you some time, I'll be patient, but at the end of the day, if you can't keep up, then
You gotta go to the next stop.
there you go. It's that simple. Literally, it's that simple. That's what I would say. Further, stuff up. Bismillah.
I had a question about choosing like a job or career. 'Cause
Okay.
growing up, you may hear that's the issue one is, and often it comes from parents, maybe like become a better engineer, and the other side may be like, oh, follow your passions or something like that.
Understood.
Obviously, I decide, it's not so simple. So I guess my question is like, what are some kind of find like what your
3 points with regards to career choice. A, that what you naturally like and you're inclined towards. 2, that what you're naturally at. And 3, that which is available and feasible to join. So I'm naturally good at cooking. And I love to cook. And there are arts schools that are available, reasonable tuition. I don't have to deal with blah, 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 blah. And then tons of restaurants looking for chefs and cooks. There you go. What you're good at, what you like the most, and what's available. You may be good at a thing, but you don't like it. You may like a thing, you may love it, maybe poor at it. You may have the first 2, but a 3-year waiting list, 4-year waiting list. Those are the 3 golden principles. And once you've made your decision for those 3, like I told them, try your best, respect your parents, try your best to include them, but at the end of the day, you have to make the decision for yourself. You have to make the decision for yourself. And of course, with respect you show your parents, sometimes you can't listen to your parents and everything. Sometimes you have to. And then maybe you're doing a favor for them by not listening to them and everything. Allahu A'lam. Fadl ya akhi.
So, I know that the average Muslim should get his knowledge from these scholars. Let's say, or from the ulama. Let's say average Muslim alim comes and tells him, hey, I think it's halal for you to worship that idol. This Muslim has enough knowledge and is confident and 100% certain that is haram, he refuses to. Now switch out this very clear example with any other example. This person's 100% certain this haram. I can't do it. Adam says it's okay. From an outsider perspective, Adam takes opinion absolutely takes
Precedence over your...
But what I'm saying is, at what point does your confidence in your own religion
clear?
Because the first example very clearly haram, but maybe another example seems very clear to you.
Understood. It's very clear. It's like what I've been asked about intuition and instinct. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Istafti qalbaka." Seek a fatwa from your heart. No scholar can come and tell you that it's okay when A, you've learned the basics of Islam. How is it okay? Please explain to me, Sheikh. With all respect, you're a scholar, you studied overseas, I'm nothing, I'm a bread maker. But can you please simplify it for me? Can you explain why you said in the fatwa that I can go and do this? If he gets an attitude, or you to ask me, or if he stutters, or, you have your answer. Because if something is clear, the scholar can clearly back it up. It's lawful to do this based off of A, B, C, even if it's not Quran and Sunnah. He can have points from Qiyas, from a Sahabi. He can have points just from logic. But if he can't explain it at all, and your spider sense is telling you heck no, then of course you avoid it, even if it's the greatest, biggest walking on the face of the earth. So that which goes against that which you know for sure from your deen, and that which your stomach is telling you to stay away from, no scholar can come and tell you. But you ask a scholar if you sincerely don't know. I'm indifferent. I don't know. Is that whatever you tell me, I'm going to do. He tells me to do it, I'm going to do it. That's not the same as me feeling 75%. Sheikh, can you break it down for me? And he can't break it down. I have to stick with what I'm feeling. So there are rules with regards to asking questions, and there are rules with regards to answering questions. One of the greatest harms that have befallen the Ummah today is people being ignorant and ignoring these rules. And that is why the scholars have explained in Usul al-Fiqh, Adabul Mufti wal Mustafti. The manners, the etiquette of the one giving the fatwa and the one asking the fatwa. But no. And they think that a fatwa is a proof. Or they think the difference of opinion is a proof. Or they think that it's allowed for you to throw away your brain just because someone has more knowledge than you. Nah, wait a second. Allah Ta'ala. Further.
I have it's more a controversial question. But nowadays, I mean, generally speaking, you have a relation between a husband and spouse, wife, where the wife is supposed to obey the husband, right? But how do you justify such a system where I'm not like disapproving of anything, okay? I'm just saying what I've heard, like, what needs to be addressed, at least with me. How do you justify that when, say, you have a spouse who's just as old as you, maybe more mature than you, more intelligent than you, more capable than you, and like, you may say this that like, take leadership of someone who's more capable than you.
Clear.
And nowadays I've like difference of opinions from scholars. Like, there's like, because sometimes there's a hadith and they'll take it and it'll show that, hey, there should be complete obedience from a wife to a husband.
Okay.
But then another scholar might say, oh, this is actually just, there's only a hadith transmission, there's only one transmission, so the hadith itself is weak, it's not in line with
Clear.
Islamic principles. So I wanted to ask you, and like I'm not just asking like Islamically what's the perspective, I'm also asking you like out of discretion, what's the wise thing to do as young men? Because we hear all the time that yeah, a wife is supposed to obey, listen, this and that, but what's the wise thing to do within our inshallah future household so that we don't cause
Clear.
fitna within it?
Understood. It's a very simple answer, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan. Everybody listening to benefit from. Are there people under a supervisor who are older than that supervisor? Maybe even more talented. Maybe more experienced. But at the end of the day, he's still or she's still the what? Supervisor. The boss isn't always right. But the boss is always the boss. So that's the Zoj. You may be smarter, you may be older, whatever, you may have more money. But if you're my wife, you have to obey me in anything which is not haram. Anything which is ma'ruf, you must listen to me. Do this extra part. She has to listen. I want you to go and give the people, poor people, feed them, give sadaqah, pay my zakat. You have to listen because it's ma'ruf. I want you to do this, you have to listen. And if she isn't willing to listen because of her age or her knowledge or her family is better than me, then she has no business being your wife. So the husbandry trusts everything else. Age, knowledge, nobility, wealth. The husband status is the ace of spades. It's the queen. It's the most powerful piece on the chessboard. End of discussion. It's just that simple. Now, just because you're the boss, that you have to flaunt it 24/7 that you're the boss. Just because you're in charge and she has to listen doesn't mean that you have to keep throwing it down her throat 24/7. Listen to me, I'm the boss. That in itself is a sign of weakness. If a man has to raise his voice and holler, it's not a true boss. You're gonna go out the room, you're gonna bring me this, and you're gonna do it right now. Just not go later. Next question. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say to you. I'm not gonna holler, I'm gonna raise my voice. The confidence of me telling you that, the calmness proves that I know I'm in charge and you're gonna listen. And if you refuse to listen, that's fine. But there are consequences. So I don't have to raise my voice and holler and screaming. And that's a mistake that many men make in marriages, and that comes from inferiority and inner weakness. And many of us, we come from traumatic situations. We saw things that were wrong. Fathers like this, mothers like that, mother-in-law like so on and so forth. Cultural mixes, which the mother wore the pants in the house. It's a fact. So you have to unlearn that stuff. A man is in charge. A woman is to be respected, loved, treated kindly, but she has to be obedient to her husband. If that's archaic or outdated or chauvinistic or red pill or this or that, then so be it. That's our deen. We don't apologize for our deen. And any woman who isn't willing to accept that, she shouldn't be your wife. So there's a difference between forcing your will versus convincing your wife. Your wife's your friend. You talk with her. You talk like friends. But there's a time, there's a cutoff point, a red line in which, listen, I don't care whether you're convinced or not. You have to do it. And first, a husband has to provide for his wife. Why should I provide for you? You have money, you can work and get a job. I'm not convinced that I should provide for you. What's the Islamic ruling? You have to what? Do it, or is it optional?
You do it.
So there's spiritual personalism. Many husbands, they lack that. Many wives, they lack that. It's not about how I feel. I have to answer your question. Even if I'm tired, there's an amana, there's a duty to answer your question. But I may not want to answer your question. I don't like the way you look. I like the way you came in. You came in late. You didn't ask respectfully. You get the point? Professionalism. So you shouldn't have to raise your voice. You shouldn't have to threaten. You shouldn't have to say, I'm going to divorce you. Your wife should already know he's my husband. He's not a tyrant. He's not a dictator. But at the end of the day, he's the husband. And if you don't have that type of woman, and you have to convince her to understand that or believe that, then you've already lost the game.
I'm sorry if I came up with this.
No, that was just hypothetical. He's not this. All right? Inshallah, we're going to stop here, guys, tonight. I don't mind sitting with your brothers. Wallahi, I don't. But I know that Victor, we got a timetable. This will be our last question.
Hasn't eaten.
Inshallah.
And the Sheikh that got the Q&As all the time, right?
That's
On
right,
YouTube.
that's
So
right, that's
anytime
right.
he'll be here at the table, got the. So I know.
Scan the QR code if you like. You can check
he
out
has
our
a table
website.
downstairs, mashallah, so y'all can come check out.
If you want to book
Out of
sessions,
respect for the Sheikh.
the different programs, the courses that we offer as well. Fadl ya akhi, bismillah.
Question. What about marrying your cousin?
There's nothing wrong with marrying your cousin, ma'am. It's permissible.
Is it permissible?
It is permissible, yes. Your cousin is not a mahram. You're not a mahram for your cousin. You can't touch her, you can't see her uncovered, you can't travel with her. Culture is one thing. We don't marry our cousins, but another part of the United States, they say, we do marry our cousins. Last time I want to say, and this is your question, with regards to fighting fire with fire. People say that Islam is this and Islam is that. You marry a young woman, you marry your cousin, blah, 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 blah. You have to know the history to point out a person's hypocrisy. All of Western society, now that's in Western society, is based off of people intermarrying, not just cousins. People marry brothers and sisters for the purest bloodline of the dynasty. People that are worshipped and hired in society. So you blame and shame Muslims for allowing a man to marry his cousin, but this president, this king, this leader, this person who has this big issue, look who he married and look at his bloodline. So people are very hypocritical. And Islam isn't a ruling of trend. It's trendy not to marry your cousin now, so therefore it's haram. When vaping started becoming popular and they started it become recreational and everything, I had many brothers come up and it's permissible to vape, right? Because it's no longer illegal in this. So Islam, the rulings of Islam, they don't follow trends. Deen is the deen. Things which are unspoken about, that may pertain to the trend, culture. So it's lawful to marry your cousin. Obviously taking into consideration the culture in which you are. And you don't want to make unnecessary problems for yourself. Understand? Wallahu ta'ala, jazakumullahu khairan. Bless each and every one of you brothers. Jazakumullahu khairan for your time, for your respect. Ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to make us better than we previously were. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best.
Mashallah, I just wanted to reiterate, the Sheikh got a table downstairs, so tomorrow y'all can come check it out.